It's a beautiful fall day, and I'm here with John Lederer, and we're talking about first and second mortgages. So, John, welcome to the program.
Well, nice to be here on a day like today.
Fantastic day. All right, let's talk about first, how did you get into doing first and second mortgages?
Like a lot of things, Erin, it's serendipity or happenstance. It's not like I went into the real estate business with this, but situations occurred where people were a little short of money vis-a-vis down payments, bridge loans, and in many cases a deal wouldn't close unless I lent a bit of money. And if the deal closes, for example, remember this is in the 80s, if a property sold, my commission would be $2,500, but if the deal didn't close, my commission would be zero. So if I had to lend people $2,500 to get the deal consummated, it was worthwhile. Now, you got to remember, in 81, that's about what the average commission was, because I was selling houses in the Upper Beach for about $40,000.
Right.
But like I said, Erin, if the deal didn't close,
Right.
because they were short of money, I'd make nothing. Or I would get buyers that were just a bit short of the 5 or 10%. And what they would say is, well, we'll wait a year or two and save it up. And I'll say, well, you know, in a year or two, the prices may go up, and then you'll need even more. And it's being like on a slippery slope. I call the real estate the engine and the money the lubricant.
Okay, to keep it moving.
Yeah, like the house is there, but if they don't have the oil to keep it going, and to me, the oil is the money.
Right.
I have a degree in business from McMaster. I love talking about money, and it intrigues me. I used to be a high school math teacher. I love doing the math.
So the whole numbers and everything, it totally fits.
Yeah.
So, John, can you give an example between a first mortgage and a second mortgage? How do they differ?
When you look at them, they look identical. They're registered by time. So once a mortgage is registered at 11 o'clock, anything registered after that is a second. And the lawyer will give you an undertaking saying that there is one mortgage ahead of you and it was registered 11 o'clock and you were registered 11:05. So you can never go ahead of the first mortgage. So they look the same. But as a second mortgage lender, what we call the mortgagee, the borrower is called the mortgagor. And how you remember that is, gee, I get the money. That's how I remember it.
Love that.
Okay, so the mortgagee, one of the criteria for looking at a mortgage is, there's a first mortgage ahead of me. How much is it? What's the rate on it? Who's it with? What are the terms of it? And you say, well, what do I care? Well, you do care.
Because they have to be able to pay that, of course, to be able to pay you if you do a second.
Yeah, if you're a second, and the reason you get a higher amount as a return on a second is the risk, yeah. Because if the first is not paid, you have to pay it to keep your order. Because the first mortgagee could care less who pays the mortgage.
All right, so the first mortgagee will basically, if a default happens, they will say to you, second mortgage, E, because G, they'll say to you, all right, you want to continue on with these payments, which in effect means that you've now taken the property, right? You're taking over those payments, which means you're now saying you're controlling the property, in effect.
You pay the taxes, which are ahead of you, and the first mortgage. Then you can also go to the owner, and there's a legal technique. There's the power of sale, but there's also a legal technique. And as I say, I'm not going to get into the details of it. I know it, but I'm not a lawyer. It's called a quit claim, Q-U-I-T. People think it's quick claim, but it's quit.
Quit, okay.
And what you do is you go to the owner and say, look, you're having trouble making payments. If we sell your property, you're going to come out with virtually nothing. I'm prepared to take the property over.
And they can walk away.
They can walk away without any consequences. So that's called a quit claim, or you can do a power of sale, which really, in my estimation, should be called a power to sell.
Right.
In the States, they call it foreclosure, but in Canada, foreclosure requires a court action. So the terms get mixed up. But the power of sale is in the mortgage document. When you borrow money and sign the mortgage documents, you're agreeing to the power of sale as a borrower.
Right, if you don't follow through with your conditions, which of course is paying your mortgage.
And there's a couple of others. On the mortgage documents, you promise to upkeep the property. You promise to pay the insurance. So if any of these are not done under covenant,
there's recourse.
There's recourse.
There's recourse. What kind of interest rates then can people expect when we're talking first and second mortgages? What is the range?
On first mortgages, depending on the type of property it is and the length of the mortgage, on private mortgages, I'm looking at 4 to 6%. On second mortgages, again, there's a number of variables, but I'm looking anywhere from 6.5% to 8.5%.
And again, it depends. We're talking where interest rates right now are very attractive still. They've gone up a little bit.
Yep.
So all those things, parameters change depending on interest rates that, and, in the current market conditions. And of course, I'm sure it's a case-by-case basis as well, right?
Absolutely. That's why I said to you, Erin, you have to go see the property. What I'm not big on is getting income statements and things like that, because to me, income is irrelevant. Okay. I know the banks put a lot of emphasis on it.
Yeah, people are going to be sitting here shaking their heads right now. So what do you mean that? So what do you look for when it comes to qualifying somebody?
I look at value of the property, condition of the property. Like I said, it's like I'm buying the property. Is it a good property? Is it rented out?
Okay.
I prefer a buyer-user. A buyer-user being someone that buys a property and uses it.
And what do you look for in a buyer? What are the qualifications for you?
You won't believe how detailed I am, but I actually look at their car. And I'll tell you why. And I did this.
Okay, now everybody's really shaking their head. Okay, tell me.
Yeah, and I did that with tenants. I would purposely somehow get to see their car, because if their car was a total mess, I figured their house was going to be a total mess. And I like a neat property, so I'd like to invest in a property that's fairly neat. But no, I basically get a feeling of what they're doing with the property. But like I said, income is great till you lose your job.
Okay, so but you must look at something. I mean, you must know that they can somehow handle paying.
Yeah, no, I ask them what their income is, but do I do detailed checks?
Like the bank?
Like the bank? No.
Okay, what's your favorite kind of client then? You must have a favorite.
The absolute favorite are public service. Policemen, firemen, love school teachers, banks love school teachers. It's virtually impossible to get fired. Having been a teacher.
Okay, you would know. All right, so you must be looking for a couple things. They either have a large down payment, so that means they're able to put a good deposit down, that makes you feel more secure, or a good income.
If it came down to one or the other, I would prefer the down payment over the income.
Interesting.
Sometimes I will take income with less down payment if the jobs are very secure, like a policeman and a teacher.
All right. Does gut fall into any of this?
A bit of gut.
So, John, let's now go into VTBs, which is the abbreviation for vendor take-back mortgages. Right. Can you explain what that is?
It's basically where an owner has a lot of equity in a property and doesn't need the money out to buy another property. Usually they have a vacation property, or they're buying a cheaper home in Bobcaygeon or Peterborough. So they have money that they could lend to the existing new purchaser.
And why would somebody consider doing that?
They would do it because then the offer does not have to be conditional on getting approved by the bank. Because if you say you're going to give them the mortgage in the offer, then it's a firm deal.
So why would somebody want to do a VTB? What are the benefits?
The benefits are that the purchaser doesn't have to make the offer conditional on getting approved for a mortgage, because you're giving them the mortgage, so you're approving them by saying you're going to give it to them in writing. Secondly, what I usually ask people when they have a big equity, would you consider holding a mortgage in case we get a buyer that might have a bit of difficulty but is a good borrower? And the line I give them is, what are you going to do with your money? I'm not a financial planner, but I just say to them, look, what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to take it to the bank at 1.5%. And I say, well, on a safe first mortgage, you're going to get 4 or 5%. The average person will say, yeah, but it's dangerous.
It's risky.
It's risky. Yeah. It's secured against your home, and it's a higher return, and it facilitates the sale of the property. Can I give an example of one of my own properties?
Let's do it.
I had a investment property, a small bungalow in Scarborough. I held it for a number of years. I had fairly good tenants. My wife and I wanted to do more traveling, and so I went to the tenants. I said, look, you've been good tenants. The property is starting to need a lot of work. I don't want to really get involved with that. You're handy, you're in construction. I know you're not improving it because it's not yours. Would you consider buying it from me? And they said, well, we only have a couple of $1,000s. The worst case scenario, I'd get the property back. I have it anyway, and in the meantime, they're going to improve it. So what I did is this is a true story, I took $3,000 down. I took a $203,000 vendor take-back first mortgage at a much higher rate than I could earn at the bank. They improved the property. A few years later, we listed it, and it sold for $308,000. They came out with well over $100,000 in equity, and I got the listing, I'm going to get them other properties. So it's a symbiotic thing. It's not like I'm the greedy real estate agent.
No, but they must love you.
Well,
look at the return they just got.
I get cards and letters. When you get into a home, you're not getting into bricks and mortar and plaster, and you're getting into people's hopes, dreams, emotions, and what they want to do with their money. Do I tell them what to do? No, I just give them options. I say in every house there is a story.
Right.
And you have to be sensitive to people's needs and give them as good advice as possible. Again, the final decision is theirs.
Well, you've given lots of great advice. Yep. And John, you are certainly a realtor with a big heart. And what's wonderful is you've taken the time to educate us all. So thank you so much.
Okay, it's a pleasure being out here.
Not bad.